Now, the rest of the story.
Welcome back. Good evening. Sun's getting low. I got a lot going on, but I figured I'd talk to you guys a little bit about Thursday night's video because it froze when I was uploading it. I left to go to the farm and I got home that night and it was supposed to automatically release at 6 o'clock that night like it was supposed to, and it ended up freezing at 94% uploaded. So that video is pretty much irrelevant now as far as I'm concerned because I made that 5 days ago. So I'm just gonna give you a little bit of a heads up or catch up and really just kind of tell you what's going on. In that video, I've been moving a lot of hay here lately. A little while back, you guys remember I was making hay, and while doing so, we made a lot of round bales that we had to move home. So I actually ended up using the 7600 and my bale carrier. A very simple machine as it is, but I would really be hard pressed to go back to not having one. Between hauling bales between the farms in the winter and easily pulling the bales in from the field when we're making them in the summer or in the fall. It's fairly easy to put somebody in a tractor, like Brittany likes the 7600. And this behind her, I do know that she can go back and forth between the field and the buildings really quick, really easy. I do know people like to use the truck and the flatbed, and we've used ours quite a bit too in the past. But sometimes, especially in some of the places we were hauling out of, in that video where we were at, I didn't want to use the truck and trailer just because pulling up out of there, it's actually a fairly steep incline, and I just didn't want to tear the truck up pulling loads of hay out of there. The bales were about 1,700 plus a bale on average. I pulled this loaded with 8 bales on it across the scale, and it came out at 6.89 tons overall, spread over 8 bales. You can haul more than what I do on this machine or this wagon. But the problem is that it's not really designed to haul that much material. I thought the bales were 1,500 pounds, to be honest with you, until I pulled them across the scale. So they're fairly heavy. The reason I bring that up is because I do know there's people that use these wagons or wagons like this and they overload them, where they'll put, if they had a 6 capacity carrier, they'll put 6 in the bottom, then they'll go on top and they'll put 4 on the second layer, so 2 here and 2 here, and these arms may seem super sturdy, but they're not exactly really solid. And once they do that, then they'll go through and they'll put a 3rd layer on above the 2nd layer. And I've seen a lot of wagons that have been used like that over the years, where the spine of the machine actually has a bow to it because of all the weight that it has on it, and then they're usually covered in welds and patches. And honestly, I hope this thing lasts me for another 20, 30, 40, 50 years. If I actually end my farming career still using this machine as much as I am now, even if I'm using it a little bit more, I'd be perfectly happy with that. It was great money spent. This was actually purchased from a guy that he bought it with the intention of using it for hauling hay, and he went, picked it up from the factory, brought it home and backed it in the shed or the barn, and never used it. This thing had never had a bale on it until I bought it. So I actually was responsible for putting the first hay or the first bales on this machine. It works great. It actually survived the fire. That's why all the paint is missing off of it. The back end of the machine got hot. It was not on fire at all, but through there, and right through there, a little bit in the frame, you can see some discoloration. They managed to get it out without the fire actually hitting it. That's just from the heat. New bearings in the back end, new tires, new rims from me, and I believe it's new tires in the front too. So I like it. It's a simple machine. I would like to have another one. I'd like to be able to use 2 bale carriers, preferably an 8 or a 10 capacity on the front with the receiver hitch on the back that I could haul this one also. The 76, pulling 8 bales with this up some of the hills that I had to, well, that we have here in southwest Wisconsin, plus the hills that I actually had to pull this out of to get back to the buildings. The 76 was doing a lot of grunting, a lot of shifting, but it handled it great. I wonder how bad it would be or how simpler it would be if I just pulled 2 6s or 6 capacity wagons and pulled 12 bales at a crack. Easier on the wagon, easier on the wagons, and still hauling twice what this thing can do. So it's been on my mind, other than I'd like to get an applicator for the round baler. I'd like to be able to put acid on the round baler, because with the way this weather's been going here lately, the last couple years, I've actually looked into Harvest Tech. If you guys are actually looking at me. The system is pretty straightforward. I'm not going to pay for the fancy, expensive, electronic, automatic system. What I looked at is either 1700 or 2200. That is depending on the size of the liquid tank that you want to put in front of the baler. So anybody that is watching that is a farmer that's done the additive to the bales, I'm trying to do dry hay, but the problem is we get to the point where it could really lay for another day and be perfect, but usually when you're at that point, rain's coming that night. And I've been told by a couple people, there's not very many people around you can find that do it, because everybody wraps. I don't want to wrap. I don't want to wrap 1000% of all the bales we have, especially when we have as much storage as we have. And ideally, if you can let it lay as long as you can, or if another day'd be great, but it's going to rain tonight and for a week, if you can go through and bale it, put the additive on it, and get your bales that they'll keep, it's worth the investment. $2,200, I would put the 55-gallon tank on the front. It mounts right above the front end here. It would be a manual engage and disengage, which does not bother me in the least. I'm so used to it anymore with stopping, putting the tractor in reverse, backing up X amount of time, putting it in neutral, dropping the bale, pulling ahead, dropping the end gate. It shows you on the monitor how big the bale is, so if I wait until it's right before the alarm's going to go off, which is really easy to do, and then just get in the habit of turning it on and off, or turning it off when you're to that point, and then turning it on as soon as you start feeding a bale in, I'm not too worried about it. My biggest concern was it's acid, at least that's what they referred to it as, and I just worry about it tearing up the baler, rusting everything out. And I've been reassured by some people, and I've also been told to read the fine print, that it's got a neutral pH, the stuff that I'm looking at using. It's the John Deere, Harvest Tech John Deere promoted or branded stuff. It's not cheap, but it's relatively cheap if you're looking in the grand scheme of things. I would really like to get to where, even what we're doing now, cut it, ted it, let it lay as long as we can, and then go through and bale it. If we don't have to apply it, great, but it would be nice if we had the option to put the stuff on, especially if we're not 100% sure of how dry it is. I'm looking at getting a moisture tester, a handheld one. That was part of the expensive kit for this. I think it was $5,500 for the 55-gallon container, or tank, but it also had an automatic sensor on it, so it would only apply it if there was a certain moisture level in the bale. It really doesn't bother me because, like I said, I'm not afraid to do it manual. And if I'm already went through the work of putting that stuff on the bale and I'm in conditions that it could use it, I would probably sleep better at night knowing that it was applied across everything rather than just X, Y, and Z. The plus side of applying that, I think I've pretty well stated. Also, I've been told that if you're applying it, it's basically like a fungicide. It keeps the microbes from eating up the bale, which in turn causes heating, which causes quality loss, which the heating results in worrying about your sheds going up in flames. And it would be nice when you apply that stuff, they say that you can put it, store or stack it in the shed right away, and it should be great, it should be fine. But we have plenty of shed space, we're not using it all. But between like this waterway hay we got, where it seems like you just can't get, you can get the hay dry, but the ground stays damp, so it's kind of like you're still picking up that moisture from the ground yet. I'm tempted to try it. $2,200, and being able to fill all of our shed space full of dry, decent hay, and then in turn being able to spin around and sell it if you don't need it at the end of the year, it makes this baler that much more valuable to us. Because I know some of you probably don't want to hear it, but if I can get it perfected to where we can make 100% of our hay, which we've been doing for the last 5 years, in round bales, and I can go through and get it made to the point, which we generally have the weather where we can get it dried down to where we would typically bale it anyway, but it's just the window's really tight. Apply the liquid, and then be able to fill in all of our sheds full, because we probably have enough room for probably close to 100 bales yet that we just don't utilize, just because if the hay is iffy, we're not going to stick it inside. So I know people are saying we should wrap it. Wrapping can get expensive too. Like you see these outside sheds, they're only partially full, but the hay weather we had this year was kind of crummy. I have those 20 bales or so that we made exactly why I want to get this acid for the baler. They are stacked out in the barnyard right now, because if we had one more day of drying, which we didn't have, they would have been great. But we're still going to feed them. They're still beef quality, but if I was able to put the liquid on it, I was told that that's exactly what guys use it for, is you can still make dry material, and it keeps the coloration, it keeps the quality throughout the bale great, so that way you're not dumping out a bale and it's just crud after the first foot or so inside the bale. So any of my farmer viewers, if you guys are still watching, comment down below. I'm genuinely curious. I'm looking around. I probably won't, at this point, there's not much need to do it this fall, because 60 acres, even if we're even going to be able to get it made, there's a little bit of a concern if we can even get our hay, the last of our hay, made at this point. But something to purchase over the winter and make it a winter project to put it on for next hay season, I think it's almost cheap insurance. I asked Scott Hinch about it, and he swears by it. There's a couple people up here that swear by it. There's also, not a lot, but there's a couple guys that they think it's snake oil, and there's a couple guys that say, I was told that dairy guys don't like it, but I don't know if that's just a hearsay thing or what. But I mean, not much point in putting it on if you can't take it and sell it either, though, because that would be the intentions of anything we have left over, because we're looking to be able to put it on our bales so they keep throughout the winter. So if we're not using it to feed our cattle, we can sell it like we've done for the last 3 or 4 years now. So that's enough of me talking. It's getting late. I gotta go check hay yet, which they're calling for rain tonight anyway, but whatever. Yeah, thanks for watching. Take care, take it easy, keep in touch. I'll talk to you guys later.